Hello, you're listening to episode 10 of 8 Minute Movies, Knives 8, a podcast talking about the 2019 movie Knives Out in 8-minute chunks, presented by me, Kieran, and him, Peter. This is a sequential podcast that contains spoilers for Knives Out, so you should go and watch it first before listening and start with episode 1 of this season. Yeah! How you doing, Pete?
I am doing pretty good. Do you want me to talk about something completely unrelated and distracting from the topic of this podcast?
You could ask me how I am.
I do that after I've done my bit. Come on.
Okay, I guess just say your thing.
I'm going to say my thing, then I'm going to ask you how you are, and then you can tell me how you are.
Okay, say your thing.
No, you've made a point of it now. How are you? Tell me of your mental state.
That's pretty good.
All right, good. All right. May I now digress?
Please.
All right. I've been playing some video games. The main one, I finished with Thimbleweed Park.
Oh boy, how did you find it?
I will say I found it okay. I had some issues. I think the puzzles are a little bit underwhelming. It sags a bit in the middle. They get a bit better at the end, and they start off okay, but it feels like it's a bit padded as a game to me. Not much happens in the middle, but sure is a lot of kind of busy work and puzzles that feel like they're just arbitrarily lengthened by additional steps. So there's that. I didn't love how all of it was written. It was I would say patchy as far as that goes, but it had a good atmosphere. It had nice graphics, nice music. It had a kind of interesting feel to it, and I overall fairly enjoyed my my time with it. I just think it could have been tightened up a bit. I feel like a game with it's got like 5 playable main characters in it, and I feel like if they'd got rid of 2 of those, like the 2 of the characters feel like they could have just been merged into one character. And one of the characters I just didn't care for at all, and I feel like they could have probably just dropped completely or turned into an NPC or something. And I feel like if they'd done that, that would have kind of got rid of some of the frustration of having to try different things with different characters and not being entirely sure at any one time where all of your different inventory items that you've been passing between characters are, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it just would have tightened up the story as well if they'd just got rid of a couple of hours of the fluff in the middle. But I did enjoy it overall.
I mean, I had fun with it when I played it, whenever it came out a few years ago. But the thing that's never quite left, I mean, the story didn't make much of an impression on me, to be honest. I remember there's kind of like an X-Files parody, but that's about it. Really topical for 20 years after the X-Files stopped broadcasting.
And I do think that's literally the only reason why those are 2 characters, is because they wanted like a Mulder
and a Scully
and a Scully, but they're basically the same. Really, a lot of their lines are the same if you switch between them and walk around. So they don't really have distinct personalities, and their interactions with each other aren't that interesting. So I feel like they should have just been squished into one FBI character, really.
I mean, so there's that about the story, but the only thing I really remember is I played it on easy mode because, if a game has an easy mode, I'm going to play it on that. Fight me IRL. But what I thought easy mode would do was just give you more hints somehow. I didn't really look into it, but what it does is it just takes steps out of puzzles. To simplify them, which is fine. But also, it makes all the walkthroughs you read really confusing because they've got steps that you don't have to do. And B, it doesn't remove all of the inventory items like required for the more complicated puzzles. So like you just end up with a whole bunch of red herring stuff in your inventory you can never do anything with.
Yeah, but that is pretty common for adventure games. That's how Monkey Island 2 did difficulty as well, in a similar sort of way. And there's another game that did it that way as well.
See, that's interesting. I didn't know that because my fave classic adventure game is, of course, Full Throttle, and that I don't think that has difficulty at all. You just
No.
it's just how it comes. You have to solve the puzzles, which is
very
why
often they don't.
why there are those 2 puzzles in it that are basically unsolvable.
Yeah, no, usually they don't. I think Return to Monkey Island is going to have difficulty levels as well, and they'll probably work in a similar way
That's cool.
to that. But I tend to suggest, because also a lot of games, including Thimbleweed Park, although I don't know whether it was there at the beginning, have a built-in hint system. So I would say, because if you're cutting out puzzles, you might kind of miss fun dialogue, and it might just not hang together quite so well. I would say if you have the choice in an adventure game, just play the full difficulty mode, and if you need to, use the hint system or use a walkthrough. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course I would have done that had I known that was how it worked.
No, yeah.
I wasn't expecting them to go, oh, well, this dickhead won't get 2/3 of this puzzle. Let's just chuck it away. What are we expecting him to do? Maths?
So yeah, I did enjoy it. I just found it in the end to be a little bit of a mixed bag. And the other game that I am playing at the moment is a completely different game, which is Returnal.
Returnal.
I think. Go on.
It's got a weird name, Pia.
I think it has a very silly name. Yeah. The first I saw the trailer live at whatever event it was being announced at for the first time, and I thought the trailer looked really cool, and then the name came up, and I was like, "Oh, really? That's what you went with?" And I still haven't ever quite recovered from that. But it is so enjoyable that I'm gonna forgive it for having a really silly name.
It's all you can do, really.
Yeah, so it's a time loop game, is what it is. That none of this is particularly spoilery. This is all addressed within the first, I would say, hour or so of the game. You crash land on this alien planet. You're in a spaceship. You crash land on this alien planet, and it's all kind of ruined. And but there were definitely an alien civilization there at some point. You start exploring it. Eventually, you get killed, and then you end up back just after the crash onto the planet, and the world has shifted as well, and so the things aren't in the same place that they were, and so it's a bit of a kind of, I guess, roguelite experience where there are some persistent features, but some things that you have to start again from scratch whenever you die in the game. And it's you might think, because it's that sort of game, that this is a kind of small indie game, but it's a big budget kind of AAA style version of that. So the reason that I haven't played it until now is because it costs £70, and that's a lot of money.
Oh boy.
And so what I did was I got so now PlayStation Plus subscriptions, because this is on PS5. PlayStation Plus subscriptions have tiers now, so you can have like the standard one, I think it's called Extra, and then Premium. And on the Extra tier, you you can get Returnal basically as part of the package. And something quite friendly they're doing with these new price tiers is that if you just want to get the extra tier up until the end of your current year's worth of subscription, then you just need to pay the difference. So
cool.
I saw a thing saying, well, if you pay like £8, then you will get the extra tier for the next 93 days before your yearly subscription renews. And I was like, yeah, I'm not paying £70 for this game, but I will pay like £8 to play this game for the next 3 months. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I downloaded it, and it is a lot of fun. It's very difficult, and there aren't any difficulty modes in this game, which I don't know how I feel about. I always prefer it when there are, but it's all been doable. You know, I've even when I've got to the bosses, which are pretty tough, I've always felt okay. Even though I didn't get it this time, I feel like eventually I will beat this boss. And so far I've beat 2 of the bosses, and each time I've tried it a few times before finally beating it. So I feel like it is a hard game, but it's balanced okay. It's doable, and you are constantly getting little things that make the thing easier as you go along. And it's got a really good atmosphere to it. So there's the aesthetics of it. I think you would enjoy them because there's like big spooky aliens with tendrils. You like tendrils, right?
I do love a tendril. I'm famous for it.
Yeah, and you got little upgrades which are in the form of parasites that you have to kind of attach to your body.
Oh, gross! I love it.
Yeah, you got weird kind of half fleshy, half technological devices and things like that, and all the kinds of things that I imagine make you go ooh. Do they?
Yeah, they do. You can stop now. I'm already seduced. No, I was quite interested in Returnal, but then I found out it was PS5 only, and of course, only the elite 0.05% of the population can have a PS5. So
I got extremely lucky getting mine. I just happened to refresh a site at the exact right moment, and somehow the order went through. And even then, I didn't quite believe it was real until it was on my doorstep.
I hesitated for the briefest of seconds during the Amazon checkout process because I was like, this is a lot of money. And I was like, I do want one. All right. And I clicked OK. And it was like, we are sold out now. And I was like, oh, my moment of brief fleeting introspection cost me a PS5. But yeah, it certainly looked interesting. I don't really know much more than the things that you've said, honestly. So I guess I'll play it at some point.
Yeah, there's some other weird stuff in there as well. Like, I don't really want to get into it, but it definitely plays with the kind of ever changing setting and what that means, and why this person is on the planet in the first place. There's some real story intrigue that I'm interested in digging into deeper when it gives me the chance to. But yeah, it's a fun game, and it makes really good use of the PS5's controller as well. PS5 has a really nice controller. It's got it feels really good, but it's also just got some really nice features. It's got a rumble that is just it's so good that it's hard to explain how good it is, because it shouldn't be that good, because it's just I've always barely even seen the point of rumble. It seems like a total luxury. I wouldn't miss it if it wasn't there, you know.
Yeah, the only time I ever really noticed rumble was in things like Halo, where you're firing a gun continuously, looks like a machine gun, and the control pad is vibrating, and you think, "This is giving me fucking arthritis. What's going on here?"
But yeah, in the first area of Returnal, it's raining in the area you start out in, and your controller feels like it's raining. That's how that's how I
It's
describe it.
it sounds like one of those early games like Halo, for a console, where they're like, cram all of the technical stuff you can in,
Yeah.
just to demonstrate the console. So if people see it or play it, they go, "Ooh."
Yeah, well, it comes with a pack-in game called Astrobot, which is really good at that. And it's a great game, actually. But the other thing that it does is adaptive triggers. So they can make the triggers kind of harder to pull, or they can give them
Yeah.
sort of a kind of soft stopping point halfway through, so that if you depress it to that point, the controller does one thing, and then if you force it past that point, then it
does a different thing.
It does a different thing. Yeah, so
I'm just going to I'm just going to say haptic feedback here, because I really like the word haptic and I don't get to say it enough. Haptic.
Yeah, it's kind of full of that. And
listeners, why don't you just take a moment with us, like me and Peter will do it. Let's all just say the word haptic together. Ready? On 3, 3, 2, 1. Haptic.
Haptic.
There we go. So it's nice, isn't it? It's nice, satisfying.
I really don't feel like I should have indulged you there, but
and yet generous. You did.
Yeah. So it's good. It's a good game. It looks great. It's spooky at times. It's also creepy and kooky, and other lyrics from the Addams Family theme tune.
Speaking of like time travel-y games, I never did finish Deathloop. I think we spoke about it on an episode at some point. I was definitely playing it, so we must have done.
Yeah, we probably did. I did finish it, actually.
I genuinely completely forgot about Deathloop right up until you mentioned Returnal like 10 minutes ago. I should get back and see how that's all playing out.
Yeah, these games definitely take a rather different approach to the old loop, but they both do it, I would say, in a very interesting way.
Neat. Well, I will look forward to playing it if and when I ever get my greasy hands on a PS5, and then subsequently have £70. We should talk at some point about how much games cost, and also game subscription services and what that means. But not today. Not today. It's too heavy.
So at this point, if you hadn't forced my hand earlier, I would have said, "And how are you?"
Well, yeah, but you're just saying that at this point you would have said that. So are you saying it now as well?
Well, what I'm saying, "And how are you?" But what I'm really saying is, what topic would you like to talk about before we do the thing that we're supposed to be doing?
I would like to talk about a cinema film that I saw at the cinema, like the olden days.
And what film is that?
It's called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I saw it with you.
That's true, yes. We were both there.
Yes. We've both seen this film.
And honestly, it's incredible. It's so good.
It's so good that I don't want to go into it too much for two reasons, really. One, that I don't want to kind of spoil anything important about the film, and two, because I feel like at some point we might do it as a series.
Oh God, really?
I feel like we might.
Oh, that would be unprecedented, doing a movie from like this year.
I don't think it's going to be the next series,
Oh,
but
no.
I can see us doing it at some point because there's so much to talk about with it.
Yeah.
So how do we approach this?
I was gonna say, I also feel like the less that you know going into the film, like the better. Because I had some vague idea of what was happening, of what was going on, and I feel like if I'd have known even less, I would have been even more happy. But should we do like a spoiler jump ahead thing?
Well, I tell you what. Why don't we say here are the things that I knew going into the film.
Okay.
I knew that a lot of people were kind of hyping it up, and I knew that it had. I should have found out how to pronounce this man's name before we recorded this podcast because I don't know that I have heard it out loud.
It's Ke Hu Kwan, I believe.
Thank you.
But I might be wrong.
All right. Okay. Who is probably best known for roles in like the late 80s and early 90s or so.
Yeah, he was famously Short Round in Indiana Jones and Data from the Goonies.
Yes, two films that I watched and enjoyed his characters in.
Yeah.
So it and a couple of times in my life I thought, oh, whatever happened to him? And it turned out that he basically didn't have the kind of acting opportunities that he wanted, and so stopped going for acting roles. Did some kind of stunt coordinator stuff on some films, and then was inspired to get back into acting after seeing, I think it's Crazy Rich Asians is the film that inspired him to maybe seek out some acting roles again. And
do you know, I'm gonna talk over you here to say I'm really glad you did, because he is so good in this film. Like the range that he demonstrates within this one role is incredible. It's almost like a like an actor's like demo reel. Like these are all the things I can play, and he does them so well and switches between them so seamlessly.
Yeah, and I think that range is a kind of good way to talk about this film without giving too much away. So to kind of dance around before we kind of give a spoiler warning and tell you to skip ahead a little bit. The thing that really stood out to me about this film is that on paper it feels like it shouldn't work because it has to cover too much ground emotionally. And it really does kind of run the gamut from moments that are just completely and utterly absurd in every way. I'm not going to give you any examples of that because it would already spoil it to do so. To moments that are really kind of earnest and heartfelt and really emotionally fulfilling. And often it's doing both of these things at once in a way that I'm not going to say I thought wasn't possible, but just seems really hard to successfully achieve. So that's what I would say really abstractly about this film. And it made me kind of realize that actually that's one of the things that I really enjoy in films is when something is capable of that kind of range.
Yeah.
And this kind of does it to the extreme, but a lot of the films that I enjoy do have that kind of thing of, oh, they can be very funny, but they can also be very earnest, and they aren't too far in one or the other direction.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything non-spoilery about it, or shall we move into spoilers?
Let's go into spoiler territory. So how did we do this last time? We had something we wanted to spoil. All right, listeners. I'm going to leave a gap here, and then I'm going to come back from the future and tell you when to skip ahead to. Okay? Okay. Hello, listeners. I'm from the future, and terrible things are happening here. You'll probably want to skip to minute 37. So that was me from the future. He's so handsome and suave. He's got an eye patch now. What's that about?
Wow.
So, Everything Everywhere All at Once. What's the best way of explaining this? It's a film that's sort of about Michelle Yeoh playing a woman who is running a failing laundromat because she's not very good at any one particular area of her life, and her relationships are breaking down with every other member of her family, and also with the American IRS service.
Yes.
But in another way, it's very much not about that as well.
Yes. It's a multiverse story.
Yes, they're so in at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of that about this one in this particular version of it. Some people have discovered the ability to kind of access other multiverses through a little device, and the way that they access it is by doing something improbable, whatever that happens to be in the moment, that will kind of slingshot them into the other universe and allow them to kind of access the abilities and knowledge of that that version of themselves from the other multiverse. So that might be, say, they have to give themselves some paper cuts in one painful to watch scene.
Oh yeah, that whole scene. Oh, you ever watch somebody? Yeah, I think it goes back to that stuff we were talking about during The Thing, where where people cut their thumbs and everyone in the audience cringes because it's such a shared universal human experience. Everybody has hurt their thumbs in some way. They know that it really fucking hurts. Everybody's got a paper cut. Jesus, watching somebody give themselves 4 paper cuts on a 50-foot cinema screen. Oh my God.
I'm wringing my hands right now.
I know. I've balled my hands into fists.
But yeah, it's or maybe it's just something like eating some chapstick, or
yeah. So they have these things called jumping pads, basically, and they sort of vaguely explain it as how doing something improbable pushes you to the local boundary of likelihood of the universe you're in, which then sort of ping pongs you out to whichever weird one you were trying to get to.
Yes, and they get to some weird ones in in the end.
Oh boy. I'm not even sure I want to spoil that fight because, oh boy.
Yeah, on the off chance you have chanced, you've not seen this film, but you've kind of chanced the spoiler section, I'd say if anything about any of this intrigues you, then I still don't want to spoil it any much more than that, apart from to say they really do go some places like this. And it's not just that they go to some extremely absurd alternate universes, which they do. There's just some weird, truly off-kilter stuff in here. But also they use it to explore relationships, like family relationships, and choices that we make for ourselves, that and all kinds of things that really kind of feel emotionally resonant, I guess, is a way that you could describe it, and really come together by the end of the film to pack a punch, I would say.
Yeah, it's real rare that I've been in a film which has made me cry both from laughing and from emotions in the same sitting. It definitely managed that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cry during it because I'm basically a husk, but
Yeah, dead inside. I tell everybody I meet, this is Peter. He's dead inside.
But you, it took me to the right places emotionally. Is what I would say, and I was saying this a little bit afterwards, but I feel like I'm not the greatest person to actually go to the cinema and watch a film with, because after I have seen the film, especially if it's something that I really particularly enjoyed, it's just spends a while rattling around in my head as I think about it, and I am not ready at that point to talk about it yet
Yeah.
because I'm still processing everything that I saw, and there's a lot to process with this particular film. So I'm trying to enjoy a discussion with the person about the film afterwards, but all my brain can come up with is like stuff like, yes, I like film good.
Film good.
Yeah. uh, and so I'm useless for the kind of post cinema discussion of the things that I've just witnessed, but that's usually a good sign. It usually means that I actually really genuinely enjoyed the thing that I just saw.
And of course, we mentioned that multiverse movies are really in at the moment. What also is in is intergenerational trauma.
Yes.
That's a whole big thing at the moment, and boy, howdy, is that ever on display.
Yes, we definitely explore some of that.
I feel as well. It would be remiss of me to not mention the visual effects, because Jesus fucking Christ. One of the characters in it, and this is quite a big spoiler, ends up with access to all of the potential universes that they're in simultaneously, everything, everywhere, all at once. It's the name of the film, and she goes exceptionally mad because of that. But she ends up being able to pull, stuff and experiences and things from all these other universes so quickly that she's literally changing costume like 100 times in a scene. Fight scenes where she's just pulling people in and out of different alternate universes. It's incredible to watch. I actually have kind of talked myself into going to see it in the cinema a third time now.
Yes, you had seen it once more before before you came and saw it with me, right? Yeah.
That's true, yes.
So yeah, I mean it's just excellent, and I would say instantly launches into one of my kind of if I have an all-time greats list. I don't know whether I do have a solid one, but if I do, that's in there. I feel like Knives Out was another one of those for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely up there as well. Definitely one of my favorites of all time.
It's such a good movie. So that's a glowing review from both of us, listeners. What are you waiting for? Go check it out. I think it's actually on like the streaming services now. I think we saw it right at the end of its theatrical run. I believe. Well, I mean, like by the time they get this episode, you should be able to watch it on the streams, like kids do these days.
Yeah, people are definitely reacting to it on YouTube now, so that must mean it's available in places.
Yeah. All right. So I guess speaking of multiverses, I better record a message for my past self. Hang on. Okay. I think that covers everything. I recorded a confusing message to myself in the past, which we will splice in smoothly using the power of editing. Kieran, if you're listening to this and you didn't edit it, you're an idiot. Hello. So, oh boy, what do we do at this point? We usually explain the bells, right? So,
yes.
So we have some bells, which I've definitely I've definitely find mine one of.
Good.
Ding.
And I have a bell as well.
I haven't found it yet, but
No,
I will.
You may one day find your bell.
Sounds like one of those inspirational cat posters. Yeah, and we ring the bell should either of us say the word thing or out.
I said things several times during the last part, but I wasn't done.
As has been proven, I don't have a bell handy. Hang on, I've got a fork. Could I hit a fork on something? Hang on. I'm going to try hitting a fork on the microphone stand. Hang on, let's see how that sounds. Did you get that?
Okay, it wasn't particularly bell-like.
Did it sound like someone hitting a fork on a microphone support?
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe if you jam it into your eye, that'll make a sound.
All right, hang on a second.
Yeah, that works.
All right, I'll go with that.
You only be able to do 2 of them.
Yeah, I say I've only got one left in me though. Yeah. Also, perhaps I need a trip to A&E now. It's all right, listeners. I just put my eye back in. Yeah, Peter. Let's not talk about the thing. Let's not talk about the thing. Let's get this podcast back on track.
Okay, this time I would like you to talk about I actually don't even remember who we have and haven't talked about yet.
Wow, rude.
I would like you to talk about someone I know you've already talked about, Daniel Craig. Talk about him again.
All right, we're going to be talking about Don Johnson playing Richard Drysdale.
All right.
Donnie Wayne Johnson, born December the 15th, 1949, is an American actor, producer, director, singer, and songwriter. He played the role of James Sonny Crockett in the 1980s television series Miami Vice, winning a Golden Globe for his work in the role. He also had the eponymous lead role in the 1990s cop series Nash Bridges. He is not related to Ryan Johnson.
Oh. Didn't even occur to me. Johnson's a very common surname.
Yeah, but the film's composer is related to Ryan Johnson. In 1984, after years of struggling to establish himself as a TV actor, Johnson landed a starring role in the television series Miami Vice. The show ran from 1984 to 1990. Miami Vice made Johnson a major international star. According to Rolling Stone, no one had more swagger in the Reagan era than Don Johnson. Johnson released 2 albums of pop music in the 1980s, Heartbeat in 1986 and Let It Roll in 1989. How high do you think Heartbeat got in the charts, Peter?
Number 5.
Shit, how did you get that? Number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart.
It was a wild guess.
Was that a guess or did you Google it?
No, I promise I didn't Google it. It was just a wild guess.
Because long-time listeners will know that you're just always Googling shit if I leave you alone.
I Googled something once.
Yeah, once was enough to lose my respect forever.
Well, anyway, that was just a wild guess. I thought, what's a number that's respectable but not very high, not extremely big hit? Because
if it was higher than that, you'd probably have heard it.
Well, if it's higher than that, I'd probably have heard it, and he probably would have gone more into music than acting. Maybe, I don't know.
Anyway, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1996. There's something you can be proud of.
Cool.
Okay. Now we move into the bits where we review your questions from the previous episode. I was going to say we watched the show because that's what I usually say, but you got really confused when I said it last time. So, I'm throwing you a bone here this one time.
Okay.
If you were seeing this movie for the first time, who do you think the murderer is and how did they done it? So you're still sticking with your current theory that Marta has done it, but you suspect that there's more to the story, which is quite a good thing to suspect, really, as the film has about 40 minutes left in its runtime.
Yes.
And you said, what happens next? He said, Marta can't start her car. You can't remember precisely why. Ransom drives up and offers her a lift. She gets in. They drive off. He takes her to a restaurant, and she explains some things to him. And he uses his knowledge of the fact that she can't lie to get an explanation out of her. So I think you did very well there. I think that's a good synopsis of this bit. The only thing I'd say that you kind of missed is the family scheming without Marta.
Yes.
They're trying to figure out how to get their inheritance back, as we will soon see.
Yeah.
So with that, it's time for us to go and watch minutes 1 hour and 12 to 1 hour and 20 of Knives Out. Marta finally manages to shut her car door, surrounded by the chattering family. The engine won't start. Ransom pulls up alongside her and honks, and Marta gets out and runs into his car.
Do you think he broke the car deliberately?
That's really interesting point, because I was going to say, why do you think her car breaks down? But it looks like an electrical thing. And she doesn't drive like the newest or best car. I'd say it's more than possible that he did it.
Yeah, possibly. And where does his car come from anyway? I was never quite clear on that.
Yeah, I mean, he must have just driven up the drive. It's very suspicious timing. I'd say it's almost certain that he done it.
Yeah, definitely interfered with the car.
Remember, because he was here for the will reading, he's just scooted off when everything stopped being funny.
Yeah, he leaves quite quickly, actually, doesn't he?
As they drive away, Ransom shouts, I think this could be the best thing to happen to all of you.
And then you get a response from Richard, which is like, what does he mean by that? And it's a very good response. He's completely obvious, completely oblivious is what I meant to say. Like there's no part of him that can possibly understand what he might mean by that.
And not even fall back to the fact that they said it to Ransom not half an hour ago.
Like not yeah, like not even that, and not even thinking about the words that their father said to them from beyond the grave in the note. Like, just no concept of how this could possibly be construed as a good thing at all.
Now, Peter, I know you're an automobile aficionado, so you'll be able to tell me what Ransom's car is, of course.
A vintage one.
Yes. All right.
That's all I got.
All right. Let's play it. Let's play a game where you guess the year and manufacturer of Ransom's car. This is going to be fun for the listeners.
It looks about 1968 to me.
Okay, it's 1972.
Okay, that's not bad, actually.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
For a total guess. Who made it? Which company made it?
It's
Remember, he's a dick.
That doesn't narrow down cars very much.
It's a BMW.
Okay. It's a BMW, right? Okay.
We aren't officially saying all BMW drivers are dicks, but it's the stereotype, isn't it? It's a 1972 BMW 3.0 CSI. Yep. Don't know anything more. Don't know anything more about that car. Maybe I should have looked it up rather than just what model it was. Oh well, that's fine. Let's move on. The Thrombies impotently watch as Marta and Ransom drive away. Joni flips them off, which I think is quite fun. Very in character for her. Blanc watches them drive away with just kind of a blank expression, sort of like his namesake. I have a note that says the police weren't very useful during this entire scene.
No.
It just kind of stood there.
Was anything illegal happening though?
Well, I mean, they were on the verge of assaulting Marta. I mean, like, if I was a policeman, I might have been like, give her a little room rather than Blank, who's like, maybe run.
Yeah, true. It might have been nice to say, okay, let her leave.
They on the director's commentary, they actually call out the fact that the police aren't particularly useful in the scene, and Noah Segan jokingly pitches a TV spin-off series for Detective Elliot and Trooper Wagner called OK Cops, where the tagline is "They're fine." They're okay. Like, you know, they'll solve 70% of crime. Now, Peter, we're going to do something that's going to be very exciting for you and very frightening for the listener.
Okay. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Could you sound less whelmed about it?
I'm literally on the edge of my seat, mainly because I'm quite slouched.
Mainly because of your hemorrhoids. We are going to explore a deleted scene.
A deleted scene?
I've never done this before.
Wow. I can't wait to see something that wasn't considered good enough to be in the full film.
Wow. I invite you as a guest onto my podcast, and all you do is attack my format continuously. I'm going to have you replaced for season 4. This is it, official. Yeah, I was going to say we sort of did for Alien, but that was really only exploring the weird fucking crab walk scene, just because of how incredibly bizarre it is.
I still have that weird image burned into my memory.
Yeah, if you ever thought the Alien was scary, just look up the crab walk scene and just be like, it's just fucking weird. It looks like a mime artist that you'd go out of your way to avoid on like a big American boulevard.
Yeah, it's just a guy being weird.
Just a weird little guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a deleted scene going on between Joni and Blanc. Joni is crying in Harlan's office, and Blanc comes in for a chat. He explains he tried her company Flam's flagship product, the snail jelly moisturizer. And if anything, they should have left this scene in just for Daniel Craig saying snail jelly moisturizer in a southern accent.
Yeah.
And he says he got one hell of a rash, and found pages of complaints about the rashes online, and that with a little more digging, it turns out Flam has been broke for years and has only been kept going because she's double dipping with Harlan's money. Joni mentions earlier that she's not on Twitter anymore. We heard that while she's shouting at Marta.
Yes.
And it turns out it's because she's hiding from complaints. Joni asks him what his damn point is, and Blanc says he hopes that she hasn't done anything rash.
Oh, you.
He looks so smug when he says it as well. It's really funny.
As enjoyable as moments of the scene is, I particularly liked the bit where he says that you probably noticed he has sensitive skin.
It's, what you'd say to an influencer.
Yeah. I can see why they cut it. It doesn't really do anything for the film, and it kind of slows things down in this moment, I think, as well.
Yeah, exactly. The reason they gave is that they dropped it for pacing, because it's in the latter half of the movie, and you want the pace to be increasing towards the conclusion. It's basically here to throw more suspicion on Joni, but you don't need it, because you already know that she's stolen like $300,000 from Harlan. I mean, that's
right. Yeah,
enough.
It's not really necessary, and I also just don't think that at this point in the story it's quite ready to go back into whodunit mode yet.
Yeah. So let's drop back into actual theatrical Knives Out here and say Ransom and Marta drive to a bar where he feeds her. The restaurant they go to was called The Flat Penny and was located in Berlin, Massachusetts. Shortly afterwards, it was renamed On the Tracks and has since been closed down because the owner committed COVID payment fraud.
Wow.
Yeah, they were double dipping, like taking money from the government to pay employees who no longer worked there.
Oh dear.
So you can go and look at it. Maybe it's open as a new restaurant now. Who knows?
I was going to say, looked like quite a nice, quaint little place. Wouldn't mind going there.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, it's a lovely little restaurant. Then it's like, oh, they did serious fraud. They talk about why Harlan changed his will. He said he wanted them all to build something from the ground up. Ransom says his mother got $1 million loan from Harlan. His father has a prenup and gets nothing. Ransom said that once Harlan told him he'd been cut out of the will, he could have killed him. But as he left, he experienced clarity that he'd finally have to fend for himself, and that felt good. I don't know if that's gonna come back up later at all.
And like his demeanor here, it's interesting, I think, because he's sort of trying to act like he's on her side a bit.
Yeah, he's being friendly towards her, and this is the first time in the movie we've seen him be friendly at all.
Yeah, but at the same time, he can't really hide the arsehole. And I think he understands that, which is why he does what he does next.
Yeah. As Marta eats, Ransom lists 3 facts for her. He knows Harlan didn't commit suicide, and he says that he and Marta are probably the only 2 who actually knew Harlan. He knows that lying makes her puke, and he knows that she just ate a full plate of baked beans and sausage. On the commentary track, they mention here that you should pity Ana de Armas for basically having to sit down and belt down plate after plate of baked beans. Like, she's a little lass and she's ate like 7 plates of baked beans so we can record this. I actually didn't know that Americans really did baked beans because I thought they were, they're a British staple, aren't they? But apparently these baked beans are a Boston speciality. They're descended from an indigenous people's dish, which is baked in earthenware pots, rather than ours, which are apparently descended from the French cassoulet. So
fair enough.
There you go, listeners. You've learned some bean facts. Americans, have you ever eaten a bean? If you have, why not write in? Let us know. Let us know what beans you've had and if they were good.
Great.
I'm trying to drive hashtag engagement, Peter. What are you doing?
I'm looking forward to being able to read some bean messages in like 4 or 5 episodes' time.
Bean mail. And then Ransom says, "So look me in the eye and tell me what happened to my grandfather." Oh, she's busted now.
But I think it's because she's feeling vulnerable and in spite of her better judgment, she just wants someone to confide in at this point. But also part of me thinks, this is Ransom, though. Why wouldn't she just say no? That's not lying. Saying no, I'm not going to say anything isn't lying.
Yeah, he sort of maneuvered her into a position where she has to explain, right? Because she's got the sort of emotional burden, like you said, but also he's stuffed her with baked beans.
Yes.
Chris Evans' cable knit sweater here caused some serious excitement on Twitter.
Did it?
It really did. People loved it. And and in fact caused at least one retailer to see a 150% increase in sales.
Looks good on him.
Yeah. They were saying in the director's commentary, you know, it's nice if you buy a cable knit sweater, but to look like Chris Evans in a cable knit sweater, you probably need his physique underneath. And costume designer Jenny Egan says she was looking for something that lent a sense of comfort that contrasted with the suspenseful story. And it does. He looks pretty snug.
Yeah.
If you notice, there's a thing that they did where all of Ransom's clothes are disheveled in some way. They're scuffed or torn. And she chose to do it to show that he'd grown up privileged and used his money to buy fancy clothes and fancy cars, but he didn't necessarily appreciate those things or look after them.
I hadn't really noticed that.
Yeah, he's like they pre-scuffed his shoes and all this other stuff. It just goes to show that the things that they do to like set up a character that you don't even pick up on, like, you know, maybe subconsciously, but not things that you wouldn't notice unless you're famous detective Benoit Blanc.
I feel like if I suddenly had a lot of money, my clothes buying habits wouldn't change at all. I'd maybe buy clothes more regularly, but I'd buy the same stuff, I think.
That's an interesting point. I don't know. I've never been great with clothes. I tend to just buy things to cover my grotesque frame sufficiently that I can go outside without causing a hue and cry. I'm not the best person to ask about fashion, I guess.
I told you before, like, I would be perfectly content to just wear an endless conveyor belt of t-shirts with cartoon animals on them until the end of time. That would be fine.
Yeah, probably same.
Yeah.
Listeners, don't write in about what travesties we are. Marta covers her face with her hands. How ironic. Later, at the Thromby house, the family are trying to figure out how to get the will thrown out.
There's some really good body language during this scene. I'm thinking about when they're saying, "Oh, if somehow she had gotten her hooks into him."
Jamie Lee Curtis's hooked fingers.
Yeah, claw hands.
Do you know, it's really weird that we spoke about Everything Everywhere All at Once and never once referred to the fact it also has Jamie Lee Curtis in it. That's
true, yes.
We are so oblivious.
Jamie Lee Curtis also doing, and I'm going to say this in a way that isn't a spoiler at all, but should ring a few bells with people who've seen the film. Great finger work in that as well from Jamie Lee Curtis, I think.
Oh boy. Yeah, they've really sold the fact that they've been sitting here for fucking hours trying to figure this shit out. The lawyer is jacketless and he's got a loosened tie. His assistant is asleep.
Yeah,
which is a really nice touch. They've just been there so long, she's completely given up.
And it's a great sort of everyone on the internet, as soon as they know a tiny bit of legal knowledge, is suddenly a legal expert, and this is very much on display here. And like, even this lawyer, who we've previously established is not particularly motivated, is at least enough of a lawyer to go, no, look, please stop.
This is why you pay me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say here the conclusion they reach is that Harlan was of sound mind when he made his will, regardless of whether they liked what he did or not.
Right. Yeah, it's not enough that they can't complain if she endeared herself to him. to the point that he decided to change his will. That's not enough.
Yeah, that's actually a great line, isn't it? Where he says, "She endeared herself to him through hard work and good humor."
Right.
Oh no, that's not going to stand up in court.
Yeah, that's not getting your hooks into someone. That's just someone liking you.
They discover the Slayer rule via Google.
Yes.
that you cannot inherit if you're held responsible for the other person's death, even in civil court. Stephen says the Slayer rule doesn't apply here, and everyone turns to Blanc, who's sitting silently by the fireplace in an adjacent room. Yeah. It's a great zoom into him here. Like he's just sitting silently by the fire.
Right.
And then the camera goes straight through a doorway onto him.
Yeah, nice shot.
All the interior night shots here were filmed during the day, and they had to put special gels on the windows to dim the light coming in to make it look like it was nighttime. Don't know why they didn't just film at night. Probably some reason. They ask Blanc if he suspects foul play, and he says that he does, and that he has eliminated no suspects.
Well, Joni says, calls him Detective Blanc, which he corrects to Mr. Blanc, if you please. Yeah. And he's being quite formal in his way, but he's correcting her, but I feel like he's also distancing himself. He does not like these people, and he is making that clear.
He's not on their side. He's investigating Harlan's death.
No, he's like, we are going to maintain a professional distance in this because I don't want anything to do with you. I'm out of here as soon as this case is over.
Richard calls Alan the lawyer useless, and he gratefully leaves.
Right.
The family decide that Marta has to renounce the inheritance. Yeah, it is good when he calls him useless. He's like, "Yep, okay," and then he just stands up and starts packing his things.
Yeah, can't wait to get out of there.
Oh god. Meg calls Joni aside to say that this is wrong. That it was Harlan's money to do with as he pleases, and Joni says that she can't afford to pay for Meg's schooling anymore. Meg looks distraught. Oh dear.
I mean, I actually find her expression a little bit difficult to read here, but I think we got a nice moment coming up pretty much immediately at the start of the next segment that I think will clarify things a bit there.
Back at the bar, Ransom looks thoughtful as Marta has finished spilling the beans. I was really proud of myself for that one.
Yes, very good, very good. And there are several bottles between them now at this point, I notice.
Yeah, I've got here, it's a good visual shortcut for time has passed with their lots of empty bottles on the table, but they're in a bar. Someone would have cleaned them away. It annoys me.
They should have been cleared away, yeah.
That's just bad table service.
Yeah, I guess her tongue has been somewhat loosened by that as well, because she's had at least like 3 or 4 or something like.
Well, there's 4 beers, so I guess that's 2 each. Come on,
No, there were. I think there were 3 on her side of the table and 4 on his.
Really?
Yeah, I think there was like 7 bottles there.
Wow, I wrote down 4 beers. Do you know what? Our listeners will not stand for us if I don't go and check how many beers there were precisely. Hold on, listeners. We're doing it in real time.
It's just possible that they are the same beers from 2 different angles, and I misread the scene, so you might be right.
Okay, I would say it's 4 beers on the table, but Ransom also has a cocktail. Or
That's true.
It's like a whiskey or something.
Go to the other side. See, are those the same beers? I'm not sure.
Yeah, look, they're the same beers from a different angle.
Yeah, okay. I thought they were closer to her, you see. No, actually, they're not. Because they are different beers. Maybe? Because go back, right?
Hang on, I'm gonna go back. I'll go right the way back to the start of this scene to see if there's a long shot. So there's Ransom's. I guess it's a cocktail. It's got a cherry in it. There are the 4 beers next to him.
I know. Just saying it.
There are where would they be? I mean, there's no room on the table.
Okay. This might just be a continuity error, but go to the scene, the shot with Ransom.
Hang on. Yep, there you go.
All right. Okay. Note which beer is closest to Ransom.
Well, the one with the green neck. This is great podcast material.
the third one along, right?
Yeah,
is the closest one to him.
Yeah.
Now switch the shot with Marta. Okay. That beer, which if you flip the scene would now be the second one along, right?
Mm.
That beer is closer to Marta now and has a different neck as well, I think.
Well, no, that one with the red neck. Look, that's just the one that's closest to her. See, so this is the one second from the left.
Where's the one all the way on the left?
Where's the fourth one? It's just off camera.
How is it just off camera?
It's too far to the right. It
wouldn't be on the right. It would be on the left.
No, it's that act. I'm gonna have to. All right. We're calling this here. I'm gonna draw this in paint, and we're gonna figure it out.
All right, but I can visualize it perfectly, so I know I'm right.
But you're not right.
No, I am. If that's it, your suggestion is that beer that is closest to Marta. When you flip it to the Ransom side, you are suggesting that that's the second one on the left now.
All right. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to pause the recording and I'm going to draw a diagram. BRB. Okay, listeners, we're back. Diagrams were drawn.
Diagrams were wrong.
We haven't been able to come to a consensus on the position of the bottles on the table.
Basically, he's drawn a diagram in which he seems to be asserting that bottles number 3 and 2 have magically swapped places. And no matter how many ways I try and explain that can't be the case.
It's perspective. The camera's further away.
That doesn't make a difference here.
I'm gonna go and read you the Wikipedia article about parallax.
No, that amount of swapping can't be explained by parallax. It's just nonsense.
I'm going to have to get the Knives Out continuity editor on the phone.
You've drawn a nonsense diagram here that clarifies nothing. All right.
We'll put a pin in this.
Right. I'm going to draw a diagram which is an aerial view.
Because I'm going to go and do the same. I'm going to go do the same in Paint 3D.
All right. You create these magic 2 shots where the 3 and the 2 bottles reverse order in what scientists are calling quantum tunneling or something. I don't know.
I mean, it's never seemed weird to me, and it doesn't seem weird to me now. So I don't know.
It seems completely bizarre to me. Like, you've changed the order of the middle 2 bottles. It doesn't make any sense.
It's because they're not in a line; they're in a diamond.
But only slightly. They're more or less in a line. If you look at the shot, there's not. If you look at where 2 and 3 are in relation to each other in your first picture, they can't. Perspective isn't enough to make them switch that much from the other angle.
I'm still happy with what I've said. All right, for the love of God, we have to move on.
It's clear we're not going to be resolving this, but if you are watching along at home, maybe you would like to tell us whether you think there are 7 bottles here, or whether there's a continuity error, or whether the bottles are in fact all in the right place and it's just a matter of perspective, even though that's literally impossible.
My, someone's confident. that they're being replaced in season 4. I love that. I love that we are overall like 50 episodes or something into doing this podcast, and this is the thing we've had the biggest flaming row about.
We have reached an impasse. We cannot proceed.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm just deleting the whole podcast. We're done. We're done. It's over. It's over. It's done. Cut it off. Stop it. Cut it off.
Part of me feels bad that this is the most we've ever talked about anything.
I'm literally ordering some graph paper right now, same day delivery. Okay. Where were we an hour and 20 minutes ago when we were talking about the film rather than some bottles? Anyway, Marta might be drunk. She's either like drunk or wasted, depending on how many bottles are on the table. 4. It's 4. There are 4.
I think there are 4, but there's a continuity error.
Marta seems surprised Ransom isn't saying anything, and he says, "I always thought that I was the only person who could beat him at Go." Kind of a weird thing for him to be thinking about, right?
Yeah, and I don't quite understand what's happening here, I have to admit.
Are you still thinking about bottles?
No, I'm talking about the Go thing. I don't know where this line of thinking with his dialogue is taking him at this point, I suppose.
Yeah. She seems confused, and he says during their last argument, Harlan mentioned that Marta beat him more often than he did at Go. So he's obviously thinking about Marta.
Yeah, and he said maybe it did mean something, but I'm not sure what he thinks that means. I don't get this, I guess. You have anything?
I'm still too riled up about bottles. Yeah, well... he's sort of seeing it as like a power game kind of thing, isn't it? Like, it's like the two masterminds playing chess, him and Harlan, but also Marta. And as we've learned from what Marta said at the, in the flashback when she was playing with Harlan, she doesn't play the game to win. She plays to make nice patterns on the board, and by doing that, she ends up winning.
Yes,
it's sort of like a metaphor for her winning this whole scenario by playing the game her way and not the Thrombies.
Yeah. I don't know whether he's just trying to flatter her in some way. To build up to his next point that he's going to make.
Ransom says he's not going to tell the police or his family anything, and that she can keep the inheritance because it's what Harlan wanted for her. Marta wants to know why he won't just turn her in, and he says because fuck his family, and that she'll give him his cut of the inheritance.
Yeah, which is plausible enough, I suppose.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson says that this whole thing is kind of a difficult sell because you need to feel like Marta isn't being stupid by going along with Ransom's plan. Yeah. And like from her point of view, I guess it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, like she doesn't go to jail for murder. She gets, $55 million and a house and all that. And Ransom gets 5. He's done. He's sorted.
Yeah. So it's plausible enough, and I think that this is kind of goes back to what I said earlier. He knows that she's not gonna come around to this idea that he's actually a good guy or anything like that. So he's not gonna get her that way.
Yeah.
But she can probably believe that he'll try and get some money out of her.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right. Absolutely. And I think there's a little warning here as well, because what have we all learned from murder mystery films and TV shows is that when somebody's blackmailing you, they'll just keep blackmailing you unless you can, silence them.
Right.
But I can't really see Marta doing a murder on Ransom, can you?
No, but I mean, when she's got a bit of a clearer head about it, she's got to presumably start thinking, oh, this isn't going to be the end of it, and there's maybe never going to be an end of it.
He will be back.
Yeah.
Ransom asks if they have a deal, and before she answers, she starts getting a call from Meg. So, in what I thought was quite a sweet touch, Catherine Langford, who plays Meg, was also just at the restaurant, out of sight, calling her on the phone and talking to her.
Mhm.
Didn't need to do that. It just helped her stay in character. I like it. And that brings us to the end of this weirdly contentious episode.
Yes.
What's future historians will be calling the bottle dichotomy.
Yes. Bottles have been thrown down.
The die has been cast, and it's got 4 bottles on it.
Or perhaps 7. Who knows?
No, it doesn't have 7. There isn't room on the table for 7 bottles.
There definitely is, but I agree there's not 7 bottles there. I think it's a continuity error.
Peter.
Yes.
If you were seeing this for the first time, how many bottles? No, so who do you think is the murderer? And how did they done it? Are you still sticking with Marta, is what I'm asking.
I think the bottles did it.
At this point, yes, I think that's the only thing we can agree on. The bottles done it.
Mm. I think I still have to go along with my answer from last time, that we haven't been given a good enough reason to think that Marta wasn't directly involved, but you'd still think that there's more to the story, but there's not enough being provided yet to make exactly what that is come to light, I guess.
How are you feeling about Ransom?
I suppose the one thing that stuck out in my mind during this conversation, and I have to be honest that it didn't really stick out in my mind the first time that I saw this, is that he gives the reason that he doesn't believe that this is a suicide is because he really knows his father.
Grandfather.
But yes. Is what I meant to say. But I just don't buy it, you know. I think it feels a bit weird to say that as someone who's seen this character for a few minutes in a film, I know this character better than his fictional relative, but but from the way that character has been presented, I absolutely, and we've kind of touched on this before, I absolutely believe he is someone who would be capable of doing a dramatic suicide as a way of exiting the stage.
Yes.
In a way that he was happy with, as opposed to just getting older. I just believe that that's something that character is capable of doing.
And of course, even the police were quite satisfied with it. Remember that Blank is like, do you often get like a slit throat as a suicide? And they were like, look around, the guy lives in a clue board.
Right. Yeah. It's just there is just something fundamentally plausible about it, and it's kind of touches on what I said before as well. There's a little bit of me that wonders whether he somewhere in his head had thought about this potential eventuality in some way. Maybe not the specifics of how it eventually went down, but had thought,
it seems
how would I go if it was on my terms, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems very much like him to be like, right, I'm not dying of like a car accident or a heart attack or something. I'm taking the wheel and going out on a high.
Right, yeah, and really confusing people in the process.
Absolutely baffling the police. That's so on brand.
Yeah. So I would say on a rewatch, that's the least plausible part of his story here. I don't think that he understands Harlan Thrombey as much as he claims to.
And of course, that just leaves us with what happens next, Peter.
So there's going to be a phone call, and Meg is going to speak to Marta, and Marta is going to say, "Oh, don't worry, I'll look after you. I'll make sure that you'll be all right." So the tables have kind of turned from earlier there, and but as soon as it's clear that she's not really considering giving up the inheritance, Meg is just going to hang up straight away without saying anything. And then after that, I'm a little bit fuzzy on what the order of events are after that. I think at this point, Marta probably goes home and is going to discover a note that seems to have been left to her for her when she gets home. I think that's what happens next.
Okay,
But
you think
I'm not entirely sure.
All right, that probably covers us up to 8 minutes. You know, the premise of the podcast. So I guess what has this 8 minutes added to your understanding? How are you finding the film?
Yeah, still really enjoying it. I think that at this point in the film, the question that the audience has to be thinking is, okay, this is all very
Hmm.
intriguing, but how are we going to fill nearly half of the film with this now? Because how far can they possibly spin this? And I don't know when it flips, and I can't remember when, for me, it flipped when I first saw the film. But at some point, we're going to kind of move from just the vague suspicion that there's more going on in this story that we're not aware of to actually fully understanding that,
Yeah.
and going back into whodunit mode.
Excellent. I really was confused when I first saw this movie because I was like, it's a whodunit. And then they show you the things that we've seen that Marta done it. And then I was like, oh, it's kind of weird that it switched halfway through from a whodunit into a how catch 'em.
Yeah.
But then I was sort of reaching this kind of point, and I was like, hang on, it must still be a whodunit because this isn't gonna play out the way that Ransom wants, is it? Like, that's not a satisfying ending to a film.
Yeah. And although Benoit Blanc is, I don't want to say he's a bad detective, but he's a weird detective.
Yes.
in many ways. I do think that he's competent enough and he's clever enough to, if he had really figured Marta out, then there wouldn't be that much more for him to do, right? But he's still sitting there in his chair next to the fireplace brooding about this. He clearly isn't satisfied that all of the pieces have come together yet. So that's another clue here that, yeah, we might think we know what's going on, but the person who's looking at this closest still isn't sure what's going on, and maybe we should think about that for a bit.
And in true Agatha Christie style, you've got to play, the detective plays their cards as close to their chest as possible, right up until the inevitable calling together in the accusing parlor.
Exactly.
All right. So, listeners, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to say that we've clearly gone mad because we spent at least 15 minutes talking about bottles and parallax, you can email us at podcast@8minutemovies.co.uk. If you like the show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend or leave a comment wherever you listen to it. Someone pointed out to me that you can't do either of those things on Spotify, so maybe install iTunes. What is it, like 28 gigabytes? Install that, and then you can leave a comment on Apple Podcasts for us. You know, we're doing all the work here. You get to listen to us just have a lovely conversation about bottles. What are you doing for us, listener? Nothing. Oh shit! Hostile listening environment again.
It's back.
It's back. It's back. Don't call it a comeback. It never left. No, if you can leave us a comment or something, that's fun because we do this for pleasure and because I'm hoping to get the subscriber number high enough that that I can get sponsors who give me money to pay for nice things.
Yes, if there are any remaining that we haven't insulted in some way, get in touch.
I think it's fairly clear we're not getting a sponsorship from Bovril because you call it a Nazi drink every time.
I know. I've made it very clear it's not a Nazi drink. It just shares a lot of the iconography.
That would be an incredibly weird advert for them to push out. We're not a Nazi drink. We just share their iconography.
We just have an identical color scheme and history of associating ourselves with kind of master race style rhetoric.
Oh boy, well, we're doing the outro. How are we shitting on Bovril again? Where can you be found on the internet, Peter? If people want to take umbrage with your number of bottles or your stance on Bovril.
If you want to get in touch and tell me how right I am that there's a continuity
don't do that.
In
He's
that
wrong.
shot.
He's wrong. I edit these. I'm going to cut that out.
You can contact me at Kestrel Pie on Twitter. That's Kestrel like the bird, Pi like the irrational number. And what about you, A?
I'm sulking.
All right.
I'm Kieran J. Walsh on various things. Talk to me there. All right, listeners, thank you for joining us for this increasingly deranged journey. Who knew the thing that caused the acrimonious breakup of our 20-year plus friendship would be the number of bottles on a table in a fictional bar? Goodbye.
Well, hope I never see you again. Bye.
Yeah, fuck you.